You know, Shakespeare said all the world's a stage, didn't he? And I want to read you that quote. It said, all the world is a stage, and all the men and women merely are players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. You know, that is so true, and I began to think about that. Each one of us, each one of you sitting here today is really a player in a drama called life on planet Earth. But the question is, this is the question, who is the director of this play? Who wrote the play? And that's what I'm going to kind of talk about today. You know, we've talked about the Zohar, we've talked about the Kabbalah, I've talked about the Emerald Tablets, talked about the Bible all the time. But those all say that there is no such thing as chance. Can we believe that? What if we really looked at everything in our life that it wasn't chance? That it was orchestrated by something so much more divine and something so much bigger. So the main thing is there is no such thing as chance. Everything is happening with great purpose in our world today and in your life today. Everything is happening with great purpose. So let's talk about this. I want to bring to, I started getting on the internet and I want to bring to mind some things that you can see the correlation of what's happening in the world. So let's look at our president, Barack Obama, who his first presidency was over in 2012 and then he got elected again. But let me tell you about his name. His name is Barack Hussein Obama. And he was our first black president with a Muslim name. I mean, it was a bizarre thing. Do you remember how that happened? All of a sudden, this guy came from nowhere and was on the scene. And I mean, it was just like it snowballed and he got into the presidency. I remember watching him the night of his inauguration. I cried because I thought, look at what's happening. Here was blacks and white on the stage together. We're seeing something happen in our world. But I want to tell you something else. It was totally bizarre election of the President of the United States. It was bizarre how it happened, and we're having another one right now, aren't we? We're having a bizarre thing happen. But there was two violent events, and I want to show you how they connect to him, that happened during that presidency. One was the execution of Hussein on December 30th, 2006. Barack Hussein Obama. The next one was Osama was shot and killed May 2nd, 2011. So the two names, Hussein and Osama, like Obama, all about something that he brought to our attention. I mean, do you think that was a coincidence? That his name is Hussein Obama, and during that time, all of these things, Hussein got executed and Osama got shot. Those were the two most powerful events, the violent events of that time. Now let me tell you some things about Lincoln and Kennedy. How many of you ever read the similarities between Lincoln and Kennedy? Unbelievable. Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846. And Kennedy was elected to Congress in 1946. Lincoln was elected president in 1860, and Kennedy was elected president in 1960. Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln, and Lincoln was succeeded after his assassination by Vice President Johnson. And Kennedy was succeeded by Vice President Johnson after his assassination. Andrew Johnson was born in 1808. Lyndon Johnson was born in 1908. Lincoln was sitting by his wife when he was shot, and she put his head in her lap. Kennedy was sitting by his wife when he was shot, and she had his head in her lap. Lincoln was shot on a Friday. Kennedy was shot on a Friday. Lincoln was shot in a theater named Ford. Kennedy was shot in a car made by Ford. Lincoln was shot in a theater, and his assassin ran to a warehouse. Kennedy was shot from a warehouse, and his assassin allegedly ran to a theater. Lincoln's assassin had a three-word name, John Wilkes Booth, and so did Kennedy's, Lee Harvey Oswald. Booth was shot and killed by the police before he was put in jail, and the same with Lee Harvey Oswald. He was shot by police custody before he could be put in jail. Kennedy's father had been ambassador to England at the court of St. John, and Lincoln's son became ambassador to England at the court of St. James. Both were the court of St. James, not John. Lincoln had two sons. Now listen to this. Robert and Edward. Edward died young and Robert lived on. Kennedy had two brothers named Robert and Edward. Robert died young and Edward lived on.
Oh my goodness.
Could it be that these roles we play go beyond the age and time? Could we have played many roles? I mean, are we playing roles for each other right now? I mean, there's something we're going to talk about. You know, in the Emerald Tablets, it says this about talk. it says he had a huge lifetime, many thousands of years, but then he could lay his body down and his spirit would go into other people. You know, I said last week, could it be that Thoth was Buddha, that he was Krishna, that he was Jesus, that he was all those things? Because we know that all those saviors have the same story. It's the same story over and over and over again, and it's the same in your life. And I'm going to get to that. But could this go beyond the age and time and become sort of overlapping entities moving in different life cycles? You know, we're multidimensional beings, and I'm going to tell a little bit about a couple of experiences I've had lately, but it just doesn't happen by accident. When you read all of those similarities between Lincoln and Kennedy, it's telling us something. It's trying to show us something. We have believed in the past that everything just comes out of nowhere in our life, didn't we? Before we really begin to awaken and see that all the ancient scriptures say everything, there's no chance, everything's happening for a reason. But it's not true. Just like Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage. You're just a player. You're playing a part in this lifetime. If we can get a glimpse of that in a bigger, dynamic way and rise above things and see them for what they are. You know, your purpose is not just to enjoy life. Your purpose is to ascend, to awaken, to become God, to begin fully realize. So something bigger is happening on this planet than just us having a good time. And nothing wrong with a good time. I love a good time. But there's something so big happen. And we're the players. And we are the drama that has to have a director. So who's directing all of this? You know, when I started thinking about that, I thought, yeah, we're the players. But Shakespeare didn't tell us who the director was of all this play. So I started thinking about that. I woke up and I was thinking about that. And we're here to wake up and follow the clues. When we see what's happening in the world and we begin to follow those clues, it changes everything. The key to understanding life and the nature of life is for us as human beings to understand our existence is in the form of a drama. It's not real. Have you ever woken up from a dream and don't know whether the dream is real or when you wake up is real? You know, I've talked about that a few weeks ago. Sometimes dreams, and I think we're multidimensional in those dreams. We're dreaming about where we are in other places. We're dreaming about what's happening. We are connecting to something because of the photon energy that's coming into this planet that has never been before. We have opportunities to get into the dimensions right now, which is unbelievable. But have you ever had that feeling of detachment? You know, I've said from a little girl, I can remember singing, "Row, row, row your boat, life is just a dream." And I turned on Wayne Dyer in the middle of the night, one night, and he was singing that song. "Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, life is but a dream." And I can remember feeling that, like there was an illusionary thing that there was nothing to catch on to. Nothing that would stay, nothing that was solid. Everything was fleeting. My parents were here at that time, now they're gone. You know, there is nothing in this life but change. We have to know that. So things are being orchestrated for us so we can experience and learn. Everything that comes into our life is an experience for us to learn something. And we can see that stranger things have happened before, with the play going on, with different actors playing different parts all the time. How many people come into your life and play a part, and then they go out of your life, and then somebody else comes in and plays a part? But we don't look at it like that, do we? But I'm telling you from a higher dimension what's really going on, and we're beginning to see that. How many of you had that detached feeling? You know, like your parents were a dream, your younger life was a dream. You know, we've had that feeling sometimes because there isn't those things that we can catch on to, because life is here to teach us something. And so who's directing this drama called life? In the early 1900s, Carl Jung created a word called synchronicity. And it means coincide with a purpose. And the word coincide is two angles coinciding perfectly. So what he began to say was our lives are in synchronicity. What does that say? There's a director of the drama. And everything that comes into your life for a purpose, to teach you, to help you learn. And so many of us haven't understood that everything happens for a purpose and it's laid out for you. And your soul, not your conscious mind, but your soul and the director of the play knows more what you need in your life than you do. And so you keep drawing this thing into your life. And we begin to see that it's being orchestrated. And so we can continue to repeat and learn, repeat and learn, repeat and learn. How many people marry one kind of guy and then you see them marry the same kind of guy 2 or 3 more times? You know, or they have a friend and they pick the same kind of friend 2 or 3 more times. You know, because until we get the message, we're going to continue to orchestrate and bring those things back into our lives. So let's look at it from another example. I was thinking about Moses and Martin Luther King. I've spoken on Martin Luther King many times, probably one of my favorite. Well, his speech was the best speech of the 20th century. If you haven't heard I Have a Dream, it'll make you cry every time you hear it. But anyway, I was thinking about he and Moses, and I'm going to show you the correlation between that. Was the Bible story of Moses and the reality of Martin Luther King programmed by a super intelligence for us to see the same story again? I think so. Let's look at Moses. Moses led his people. God took him up to the mountaintop and showed him the promised land, but Moses couldn't go into the promised land. He said, I'm going to show you the promised land, but you can't go into it. And he died the next day after he saw it. So Moses went up to the mountain, but he died the next day. Listen to what Martin Luther King said. This was in Atlanta, Georgia. This was the day before he died. I just want to do God's will. And he's allowed me to go to the mountain, and I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that as a people, we will get to the promised land, and the next day he was shocked. Is that a parallel?
Yeah.
I mean, just like Moses. So he went to the mountain, saw the promised land, couldn't go there, and the next day he was dead, just as Moses was. Can we see that all this is a play? And it's being orchestrated over and over and over again for a purpose. You know, when I first woke up and saw that there was like at least 20 saviors like Jesus that had 12 disciples, walked in water, born December 25th, crucified, died, resurrected, came into the town on went into the temple at 12 years old, you know, it makes you think, what is going on here? And you begin to see that this is being orchestrated. And we're getting the same message over and over. If you never read about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, every single one of us is on the hero's journey in here. It's the same journey for all of us. So can we see that this is a play being orchestrated for a purpose, and all of us are the players in the play. You've come in here to NVOC, and we're all playing a part in here. Every single one of you has come with a purpose to play a part in here. So we've entered a magic time, and we're beginning to see and understand a drama is unfolding on planet Earth in this moment. We're watching a play. It's the greatest show on earth. It's happening right now. And it's a unique time when strange things are happening in our planet and in our lives. How many of you had some really strange experiences of late? I know I have. Really strange experiences. I told you the one at the beach where I was elevated and I felt this energy run through my body. And I had a past life experience last week. Patty's not here today. But I went back to Atlantis and saw all kinds of things. I mean, I saw this thing I thought was a submarine, and they were putting all these tablets and everything in it, and it ended up, I never knew that there were spaceships that looked like cigars. When I got finished, Patty said, you know there's spaceship that look like cigars? I said, no, and I thought it was going to go under the water. I was seeing the destruction of Atlantis, and instead of going under the water, this thing took off and went to another planet. And I thought it was a submarine. But we are experiencing things. Our consciousness is reawakening to ancient mysteries and things that are just happening in this world. So it's a magic time. And we're beginning to understand that this is all a drama. And it's unfolding for us. And it's a unique time when these things are happening on our planet. And listen to another familiar drama. Now listen to this. In 1190, an attack took place against the Jewish people who tried to hide in the tower in York, and all were killed. That date was 1190. So keep that in your mind. Act 2, the Twin Tower massacre in New York was 0911. 9, see the switch of the thing? A different method. So the players all were in the Clifford Tower in New York, 1190. Twin Towers in New York, 0911. And a lesson was failed to learn. Can we see the karmic lesson? It brought it back a second time for us to learn the lesson. Can there be a third act if we still don't learn that lesson? But look at those dates. I mean, it's unbelievable. We're doomed to repeat it on 9/11, 09/11. What happened on 11/11/90? Just reverse of numbers. So wonder if there's going to be a third act. But here's another strange and synchronistic thing that happened in the Jewish history that repeated, which connects to the destruction of the temple. In 587 BC, Nebuchadnezzar's army captured Jerusalem and destroyed the temple. So the temple was destroyed in 587 BC. So Clifford Tower was attacked in 1190 in York, Twin Towers 0911 in New York, and a short time after the 0911, Flight 587 crashed 2 months after 9/11. And another coincidence, the winning lottery number in New Jersey, the same day as the American Airlines flight, was 587 in the afternoon, and the flight was in the morning. You know, we've got to begin seeing there is a language of light, that synchronicities is going on, that we're opening to, that we can see beyond the drama and really understand in a deeper way. Everything is happening or being orchestrated by a great light. You know, I've said this probably for the last 3 or 4 Sundays. What does the Bible describe God is? God is light. What did Jesus say he was? I am the light of the world. And then what did he tell us? He said, you are the light of the world. So what is it saying? It's photon energy. Everything is photon energy when you get down to it. Energy runs unabated on its own. Could it be that photons from above descend to us with an energy that carries out things without our knowing in our life? Could that big light, and I didn't know if I was going to say this, but I'm going to say it. It's not that big of a deal, but I want to know, where's the greatest light in the universe or the galaxy? And this is, I got on the internet. And he says, where is this God light? And it says on the internet, you can find the location. The supreme light is the center of galaxy 4555. So could it be that these photons are coming down and affecting our thinking and orchestrating all these things to come into our life? You know, you probably could go to church and hear all about Jesus today and all this, but here I'm talking about all this scientific stuff, but it's awakening us to greater dimensions. We're beginning to see that there's a higher frequency, a higher force in a synchronistic way that is orchestrating events in our life and our world. That photon energy is affecting us all the time. And what's happened with us is that energy's been turned up because of all these things, that all the different waves and photons and everything that's coming from our sun, it's being turned up. So those synchronistic events are happening faster and faster and faster. How many of your lives, things are happening faster than ever before? You know, they're coming in and out and in and out in such a fast way. It's almost like you can't get a grip on it because it is happening so fast. You have to ground. Let me say that. If you don't ground, I have to ground Taylor all the time. Whoosh, away she goes almost every day. But anyway, have you ever changed a decision? Let me ask you this. Have you ever changed a decision or done something not knowing why you did it? And then all of a sudden you did this thing, you say, why did I say it, or why did I do it? Or you don't know why you changed your opinion or changed your mind. Could that photon be entering our brain and attempting to change our decisions so that our drama will go around the lines that our drama needs to go? Could that be happening? You know, we're looking at things in different ways. Many times it causes confusion. We don't even know why we change our mind or we take a different direction. Could the fact that these things happen as they do mean that there's always a plan being carried out in your life? And I want you to look at your own life. Think of things that maybe you've done or said, or a direction you've taken, and you say, why the heck did I do that? Is there these photons? You know, I said that angels are really angles of light, and that when they come into this gravitational field, these angles come in at an angle, and angels are the same things. I hate to break your bubble, but there are not beings with big wings flying around here. There's angles that are touching our brain. And messages. You know, when Jacob put his head on a rock and had this, vision of this ladder, which goes right back to the Emerald Tablets and the 7 ways of alchemy, when he saw that inside, it was inside of him that he saw that. It was these angles of light that were giving him this vision inside of him of this ladder of ascension that connects heaven and earth. So we're beginning to grow up too. Instead of talking baby talk about little angels, we're beginning to see that these photons are angles of light that are affecting our minds, helping us make decisions, directing our path, bringing us into that orchestration of this divine light. So could the fact be that these things happen as they do, that there's always a plan being carried out for you? You know, if you're drawing breath, anybody not drawing breath right now? If you're drawing breath, there's a plan for you. You came here in divine order on your birthday to have all the energies that you have to be on planet Earth at this moment. You are important. You're part of the plan. If the wings of a butterfly change the whole weather in Texas and what it's doing in Argentina, your thoughts, your emotion, your energy is changing everything too. We've got to begin to see this bigger picture of interconnectedness that's changing our world. And there are messages from photons contained within the names and events of everything that happens. So we look back on Kennedy and Lincoln, and we see those photons that are connecting those two dramas together, showing us the same lesson again in another man, in another age, just like all of those saviors did. Something's going on. But the question is, can we see it? Can we begin to connect the dots? A messenger for our world and us personally. If you have eyes to see, Jesus said, and ears to hear. And he was saying beyond the mundane physical world. We can connect multidimensionally now. We can go out and connect and have these out-of-body experiences and really connect to something much higher than we think. So we're learning this language of light. So I said, our president's name, Barack Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, and some of the violent acts that happened where Hussein was killed and Osama was killed. I mean, we just think these things are coincidences that happen. So we look at the names and we see the connection and we consider, is it being related to a higher order? When we read all those things about Lincoln and Kennedy, can we see that that's just not a coincidence? That some divine order is trying to show us a greater plan. You know, all of the Emerald Tablet starts with come up higher. And guess what it says through all Revelation? Come up higher. It's just a call to continue to come up higher. And that's the clarion call of this age. That we can come up higher and see things from a much higher dimension than we've seen them in other ages. And what does it mean for us today to know all this? It means a great change has occurred, and we've entered a time like no other. You know, I've always said, my grandparents probably had the same furniture. They got married, they got furniture, and the day they died, they had the same furniture. I've changed my furniture 50 times. Every time your energy shifts, you want new colors. Every time your energy shifts, you don't like the old stuff. You want to get the old stuff in, and you want something that, you know, is resonant with the energy that you had. The energy wasn't changing back then like it is now. We're continually connecting our bodies and trying to recalibrate all the time. That's why sometimes we do have that chaos and we feel these things happening. And the message to us is this: the great change is being orchestrated by a supreme photon light source. And it's for us. It's always for us, and I'm going to read you that. And the change is upon our life as never before. No generation, as a corporate people, have ever experienced the changes that are happening in our life. So exponentially, radically, all the time. I mean, the energy's shifting. You buy a printer, you go back 3 months, you can't get the ink. I mean, there's just things happening that's unbelievable. And it's shaking us. Just like that storm. That every time I would hear that lightning and thunder, I could feel it inside my body, like bringing stuff up. You know, bringing stuff up, hitting our earth so we can break up that matter and really begin to become that spirit. You know, that's what alchemy is all about. It's the spiritualization of matter. That's what the Emerald Tablet's about, the Bible's about. So it's opening us up to these messages of supreme light energy. And it's showing us that through this time of uncertainty and change, we are connected to a compassionate source who is manipulating the world events and in our life, always for us. Always for us. And by going deeper and getting in touch with that supreme source within, you can allow ourselves to open up to these events instead of fighting them. And I'm going to read something that we can either have a gentle birth, like Barbara Marx Hubbard says, or we can have a very radical birth, one that's violent. Some people have a labor, and it's really gentle. But then if you fight it, sometimes that labor is just violent. So we're choosing how to do that right now. And we can connect to the language of light and begin to see how our lives are reoccurring events. How many times can you look at your life, see the same person coming in just in another player? Just in another player. You might have had, somebody, and then you think, I'm going to get rid of that, and then you know what? I'm going to be fine because I'm just going to get that person out. But then the same person comes back, just in another body, playing the same act for you until you get the message. And that's happening. So who's manipulating these world events and the events in our lives? And by going deeper and getting in touch with that source, we can allow it to unfold within us. And we can connect to that language of life and begin to see our lives are reoccurring. When we get that message, they are bringing us. The message of change is coming through if we can tune into it. And I think that's what it's all about right now, tuning into these radical energies, that we can begin to get these messages through meditation and connecting with nature. I don't know about you, but if I don't get somewhere and connect, I have this thing going like this. You got to ground, because those energies are coming in so fast. We have to ground and get ourselves grounded, that we can really our body can begin to assimilate all these energies. And the message is this, and I'm going to read this from the Bible, but I'm going to read it my way. And we know that in all things, supreme force of source energy is working together for the good of those that love source, and to those who are called according to our purpose, to their purpose. This is in the Bible, the Emerald Tablets, the Kabbalah, the Zohar, Buddhism, Hinduism, the same message, which in every single one of you came here with purpose. If you draw breath, you're here for a purpose. You've come with a purpose. So it says those who are called according to his purpose. Well, you are called according to his purpose. And you wouldn't be here if you didn't love source energy, if you didn't want to hire to understand, if you didn't want to open that crown chakra and receive all this information. You wouldn't be here listening to all this stuff I'm talking about. So it's good. What Paul defines as good, though, many times is beyond comfort and beyond wealth and beyond what we really want. And many times it's the reason we don't recognize it as something that's good, that's coming into our life and is being orchestrated. What Paul is talking about is living by the very power of all that is that source energy, no matter what's coming into your life. And listen, I'm talking to me too, because radical changes are happening in my life. And a lot of fear has come up in my life that I thought I assimilated years ago. You know, I think it's like a spiral. We deal with it down here, and then we go up and we deal with it again. And then we go up and we deal with it again, but we have more tools to deal with it. And then we deal with it till finally we totally release it. And listen, we can't ascend with dense energy. Fear, hate, competition, all that's dense energy. And we can't ascend with that. We have to be able to release that dense energy that's holding us here, holding us in these frequencies, these physical frequencies, so we can rise up. So what Paul was talking about is living by the very power, all that is that source energy, even in the midst of suffering and pain. Even in the midst when we're suffering and we're in pain, can we really know and can we live by that source energy? You know, even in the midst of a storm, there's that 0 point. That point in the midst where we can find that peace. And that's what's coming into our life right now, pushing us into that place. By connecting to our supreme source, we can know all things are working together for my good, your good, the good of the whole world, the good of every person that draws breath today. Let me read what Bhagavata words 2,000 years ago, he said, in 600 AD. He said there would be a great shaking in the world that would shatter traditions and restore the earth mind to one, not obsessed with material, but rather interdependent with nature, and a rebirthing of universal life. This was 2,000 years ago, and that's what happened. You're going through a birth right now. You're reconnecting with nature. We're seeing that material things are not the things that make us happy. And many are experiencing uncertainty, feeling like a shaking in our lives right now, and it's not comfortable. I know my life hasn't been comfortable for a few months. I mean, things are happening in our life. It's pushing us to reconnect to that source. The only place we can find that peace. And it's because the culmination of life on the planet is we know it is changing. A new mindset, 2012, happened in 2012. And it doesn't have anything to do with that date in reality. Because really what we're going by is a cosmic clock. It was the movement of that sun through the 12 constellations. It's really had nothing to do with man-made time. We just have that as a significant point. But it's the sun movement through the equinox. It's called cosmic time. The mind of man changed in that moment. So don't be lulled to sleep because you don't see all these things happening. As Volta said, we have cut ourselves off from nature and the cosmos, and thus we've been ignorant. It's when we reconnect to the cosmos, to nature, that we begin to see the bigger, greater plan that's happening. And thus we have to learn. Can you imagine not knowing when summer or spring was? You know, most of the people don't realize the season they're in right now. They have no idea what season is bringing, such as the solstice cycles, because they've aligned with the sun. Our sign has aligned with the galactic center. everything has changed on planet Earth. Everything has changed. And if we can begin to see what's happening and know that it's not happening to us but for us, it changes everything. A new consciousness of universal light to overcome the consciousness of death is happening. It's being birthed. And I just wanted to read, I looked up on the internet, I just want to read a couple of things. When we are out of sync with the natural cycles, the birthing process can be painful. If you resist the pain, it's even greater. On the other hand, the birthing process, when one is in tune with one's body, the earth cycles and the cosmos can be beautiful and awesome. Then we can experience the natural death of the old life as it makes way for the new with minimal discomfort. Many people have predicted the end of the world and the second coming of Messiah and been proven wrong every time. The mystery of birth, death, and all the cosmic cycles is within you. You are the one, all of humanity and all of the cosmos are past, present, and future within you. You are the one. 2012 was only a key to understanding your multidimensional capabilities and learning how to use them. And that's what the Emerald Tablets are all about too, is learning to leave the body, go multidimensional, travel to the universe, do this alchemy on your body. It's phenomenal. And this will give way to a new heaven and a new earth. For those that get it, it will reintroduce the ability, now listen to this, to communicate with multidimensional gods once more. And last, it is worth knowing that these gods are no more sacred than we. We too will awaken to our multidimensionality, heralding in the second coming of the Messiah through us. All in all, we are one. The outcome of 2012 transformation is to reconnect us to the cosmic origins of the divine, which both within us and around us. It's all about that. That's what 2012 was really all about, reconnecting us to all of that. We are in a time like no other. Guarantee you, a new consciousness of universal life to overcome the old consciousness of universal death. If we're out of sync with nature, it can be painful. That's what it's telling us. But if we're in harmony with the changes, it can be beautiful. When we fight that birth, you take Lamaze classes. When I was young, we took Lamaze classes to have our babies because what we learned to do was relax. Instead of fighting it when your belly started to have these contractions, you began to relax so that the birth can be easier. We're taking Lamaze classes right now so that we can birth this thing, so we can relax through those painful parts of our life and begin to birth this thing in a greater way with more harmony and love, and instead of fighting against it. And it's by getting in sync with nature that it helps us. The great changes upon us day by day. You will witness this with your eyes. You're going to begin to see, now that I've showed you Kennedy and all of Barack Obama, begin to look at this language of life. See what it's telling us. So take notes of things that seem like big surprises and know it has been ordained by a supreme light. It was never a surprise. Only to you. Only to you. But it was all there, waiting to help your soul evolve. For this time, for the earth and those that live on it to be restored to oneness. And if we don't get rid of this stuff, that's what all of this orchestration is about, for us to get rid of and shed all this stuff, that we can really become one. To welcome in this new age of love, peace, and healing. So together, let's evoke the name of the great Sun God, the great light. Amen. And so it is. Ah.